Hey there everybody, it's markcrilley. I'm back with another how to draw video. Today I'm doing something different. I am going to compare what essentially the same drawing looks like when I use a ruler to draw the straight lines in one version, and I don't use the ruler at all in the other version. So I'm just going to go ahead and jump in using a cheap see-through blue plastic ruler. I think it only cost me 99 cents. And I'm going in here and beginning to firm up these lines. Now, normally I might, if this was for publication, I might do a little more in the way of preparatory line work. But for the purposes of YouTube, I thought, why not just sort of jump in and kind of make this structure up as I go, and give you some sense of how I would use the ruler to replace any line that I initially did, freehand, and give you some sense of how I, in my own work, often do rely on rulers for getting straight lines. Now, I know a lot of people will feel that using a ruler is somehow cheating. And I even used to kind of feel that when I was younger. It's like, no, the real artist, you do everything freehand. You're not supposed to rely on a tool like a ruler. But, there's just so many different kinds of illustration styles. And when you're trying to do something that has this sort of sleek, futuristic look to it, why not? Why not get some help from a ruler? Now, the truth is, even when I am relying on a ruler for most of the straight lines, I will sometimes jump in and just do quick freehand lines like these horizontal lines here. I don't sit there using the ruler for every single line. That's in a way almost too time consuming, so I kind of pick and choose, to be honest, which the longer the line, the more likely I am to rely on the ruler to help me get it straight. Now, there's no way that I can do this entire video real time. I'm going to have to jump into time-lapse for a lot of it, but I thought I would at least begin with a little bit of this real-time drawing. As you can see, and now I'm kind of departing from what was even in that rough version, and in a fairly spontaneous way, improvised way, what's the best word? Just sort of tossing lines in. And even with something for publication, to a certain degree, I might just, especially if it's still in pencil and you can, I can still erase, I will just sort of throw something down and see what it looks like, For example, let's try adding some sort of unusual extra structure that's coming off the edge here. See what that does. Why not? Live for the moment. So yeah, this gives you some sense of how, having a ruler doesn't necessarily mean that your drawing process becomes kind of cold and dead. You can still be quite spontaneous, as I said, sort of improvising things on the fly. I'm a big believer in every artist finding his or her own way and not coming up with these axioms, these sort of laws of like, you should always use a ruler, you should never use a ruler. My feeling is everyone's finding their own way forward in this wacky art world. And I am very suspicious of these sort of you should always or you should never kind of so-called laws of drawing. Anyway, I think it is time for me to kick this into time-lapse. I'm going to go ahead and finish it up, firm up all the lines, mostly using the ruler, although I'm going to do a little landscape back here. That'll probably be freehand. And then we're going to come back and try to reproduce the drawing as best we can, wish me luck, without using the ruler at all. Alright, so there's the finished illustration, finished more or less. I might scan both of these in at the end and add just a little bit of tone to see how they both look with just a little more color added to them. But now it is time for the tricky part, and that is to try to recreate this freehand without using the ruler at all. In fact, I'm going to take this ruler and throw it away. Can't grab it anymore. And my thinking is, rather than try desperately to recreate this exactly as it is on the left-hand side, my inclination is to sort of embrace the imperfections of drawing by hand and allow that to kind of affect the finished product. That is to say, you know, what is the point if I try super hard to do everything with perfectly straight lines on both versions? I don't know if we learn anything really. Whereas if I allow myself to sort of show what I would normally do when I'm drawing without a ruler, which is not to try to remove all the humanity from the line work, but just go ahead and go with the flow and allow the little imperfections to show up, then maybe we just sort of can learn a thing or two about how getting rid of the ruler allows you to draw in a different way. And having the ruler allows you to draw in a different way as well. I certainly don't, you know, it'll be interesting to read the comments on this video. I think some people who don't like the idea of using a ruler may declare one of these the winner, you know, and say, well, it's the one you drew without using a ruler is good, you know, and the other one is bad, you know. Those of you who've watched my videos know I'm not that kind of person to declare one of them the winner. I like for artists who have a kind of toolkit, you know, where they have different options depending on the project. And you might decide, well, I want this, you know, I want to have a little more of an organic look to it, so I'm going to not use the ruler for this project. But there is a difference, just inevitably, in terms of this was the one where I was spontaneous and I was making things up as I went along. This time I'm sort of trying to reproduce what I see over here on the left. So some of the spontaneity leaves the process, unless I really allowed myself to completely reinvent it, which I may as I go. Again, just to have there be some variety and not have me doing a carbon copy. I'm not much for trying to do the exact same drawing exactly the same way twice in a row. Anyway, now you can see there, I might allow myself to go back and fix a line if it looks like a little too frail. Try to straighten it out. But you know, I know a lot of like beginning artists will say, I can't even draw a straight line. Which is sort of an interesting thing, because drawing a perfectly straight line is very hard. So this idea of saying I can't even is like, well, no, it's nobody can draw a perfectly straight line, almost nobody. People who can are freakishly talented, I would say. You can see all of, you know, maybe I should zoom in a little. Let's do that right now. I'm going to zoom in so you can see some of the imperfections of this line work. All right, so I'm a little worried about it going out of focus if I go in too tightly, but I thought if I zoomed in for just the last few bits of this process before I go into time-lapse, you can maybe see with greater clarity how I'm, you know, the lines are fairly straight, but I'm not like trying to be robotic in terms of perfectly straight lines. And to be sure, when you get rid of the ruler, you have a certain freedom. You know, you're not constantly moving this tool around across the page to help you with everything. Actually, this one I think is a little bit... if I want these things to look similar, I'm going to have to get similar spacing for some of this stuff. Anyway, hopefully that gives you all the info you need for now as I work on doing this one. One thing, if you want fairly straight lines, it can help to draw the lines quickly. For example, if I do this antenna really fast, right, you get a kind of a perfectly straight line. The problem is the angle may be a little bit off. The slower you go, the more likely the sort of tremors of your wrist will show up in the drawing. So the speed of the line can help sometimes. Within reason for shorter lines, I guess I would say. But let's go ahead and we'll kick it into time lapse. I'm going to go ahead and finish this off. I think I will refocus so you can see the entire image. Heaven knows I've done that enough where I draw everything and you can't even see it because the camera was focused too tightly. But we'll refocus the camera and then I'm going to go ahead and finish this off all by hand. Alright, well, we've nearly reached the end of it, and I guess I ended up making the second version a lot closer than I originally thought I might to the first version. I guess it's hard to break, old habits. Once I got into it, I was like, I gotta get every one of these lines into the new drawing, or I will have failed somebody on some deep existential level. So yeah, from a distance, certainly they look quite similar, but I thought what I could do right now here at the end of the video is to sort of do, scan in a much tighter way details of the two drawings, and so you can see side by side how the individual lines differ when you're, oh look, I forgot a couple of things over here. There's bound to be a few details here and there that I've missed. So that you can see the difference in line quality between the two different approaches. And so let's go ahead and splice those in right now, and then I will be back with a few final words. Alright, well, you see there is a difference when you zoom in between the line quality of the two different illustrations, but I suppose the biggest takeaway for me from this experience was that I can do a drawing like this without a ruler. Now, normally I would have been thinking for this type of a drawing, oh, I gotta have a ruler, there's so many straight lines, but I've learned really maybe not so. I can, depending on the final look that I want, get away with doing a drawing like this just freehand. And here's what it looks like when you add the tones. Shows you that you can even do final looking art without inking. Actually, all I did was heighten the contrast and then just sort of drop in a little bit of Photoshop toning there. But before I go, I always like to say thank you to anyone who has supported me by getting any of my books, like The Drawing Lesson, my graphic novel that teaches you how to draw, Mastering Manga, my book on drawing in a manga style, and my very latest book, The Two-Pencil Method. I really cannot say thank you enough to those of you who choose to support me by getting any one of those books. But let's go ahead and lay down this pencil. I want to thank you all for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with another one real soon.